As incredible as the Rocky Mountains and the Florida Everglades are, they just begin to scratch the surface of the wonderful diversity of ecosystems that exists on this planet, each of them unique and worth saving. The question is, what are we willing to do to ensure that Mother Nature can thrive in the future? And that's it for this week on Awesome Planet. I'm Philippe Cousteau, and we'll see you next time. In this episode, tornadoes twist through open plains and hurricanes wreak havoc on coastal communities.
You've got hurricane-force winds. You're literally risking your life.
Join me, Philippe Cousteau, as we explore extreme weather on Awesome Planet. As the sun heats planet Earth, the air closest to the surface rises. As warm air rises, cooler air rushes in to fill the space. This creates what we call wind. In extreme cases, high winds can create hurricanes and tornadoes, and their path of destruction can be devastating. In the state of New Hampshire, a mountain nicknamed home of the world's worst weather provides the perfect location to study intense weather conditions. In New England, weather can change in an instant. And at the summit of Mount Washington, scientists have established a massive weather observatory in conditions that can best be described as extreme. Mount Washington is the highest peak in New England in the northeastern United States. We're just above the tree line here, a few miles into the summit drive, which I have to say is getting hairier and hairier as we go up. Mount Washington is about 6,288 feet tall. It has some of the most extreme recorded weather at the summit. Regularly in the wintertime, temperatures can go down to minus 50 degrees. It's almost like a different planet coming up here looking out than where we were just 20 minutes ago. Got the clouds rolling through and all this kind of moonscape rock, a little bit of moss and shrubs. A far cry from the dense forest down below. At the summit, the weather changes rapidly. It can be clear one moment and foggy the next. But it's always extremely windy. That's because there's nothing around for thousands of miles at this elevation to slow the wind down. For the last 80 years, they've been taking weather recordings here around the clock. What kind of research are you doing? What kind of data are you collecting?
Wind is obviously our most famous one and one of our most important ones, but also temperature and precipitation go into all of our weather observations as well.
And so how do you collect precipitation?
Well, it's very difficult up here. Again, the wind presents a lot of challenges.
Even in the dead of winter, they still need to take readings 24 hours a day. This means braving minus 45-degree temperatures and hurricane-force winds. To measure precipitation, they must gather a collecting can in this open area and replace it with another.
So right now we're entering our weather room. So this is pretty much our office space right here where we do most of our work.
This is the nerve center. There are all kinds of meteorological equipment here, like a digital barometer to measure air pressure and a 24-hour wind chart.
What does all of this taken together tell us?
Our main reason for being up here is to take observations every single hour. So all these components go into those observations, which we send off to the National Weather Service. And then they take that information and they plug it into forecast models that all forecasters around the world use. So the more accurate our observations are, the more accurate forecast models will be, and hence the more accurate forecasts will be.
In 1934, the highest winds ever recorded were right here at 231 miles an hour.
Of that building where they
Chains were used on the original building to keep it from blowing off the mountain. Now, the wind instruments sit atop this sturdy tower, which is where we're heading next.
Yeah, it's windy.
Yeah, so we're blowing at about 50 miles an hour right now, gusting a little higher. So almost at the most exposed portion where we're standing right now. Obviously, if you go up on the top of the parapet there, that's where you're going to feel the full brunt of the winds.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Now we're talking. This is the business.
So yeah, these are 50-mile-an-hour winds.
Woo!
Again, winds most people won't ever experience in their lifetime, so it's...
And this is child's play
For us,
you all.
this is a mild day.
This is a little breeze.
It's a little breezier for a summer day, but compared to what we see in the winter, this is a very mild day.
So, Mike, why do you risk your life, literally, to come out here in 100+ mile-an-hour winds in the middle of winter when it can be minus 50 degrees to clean off these instruments? Why is it that important?
Well, we've been taking these observations up here since 1932, so we have an 80+ year climate record now. And with all the talk of climate change recently, getting that 80-year data set is extremely valuable to analyze for climate research.
It's worth risking your life.
Every day, definitely.
Now this is Awesome Planet.
A hurricane is an intense tropical storm with powerful winds and heavy rainfalls. The winds can destroy homes, and the rain can cause severe flooding. At Florida International University, scientists are able to simulate these extreme weather conditions by using something they call the wall of wind. So this is where all the power for the wall of wind comes from. 12 enormous fans. Now, to give you a little bit of scale, I'm about 6'4" tall. That means these fans are easily 8 feet in diameter. They're bolted into the ground, and all told, these fans can simulate a Category 5 hurricane. That's about 155 miles an hour. Walter Conklin is the manager of this research facility, which is used for all kinds of useful experiments. This is where the magic happens. This is the receiving end of the wall of wind. So most of this is, you would say, is structural testing?
Yeah, most of it's the built environment structural testing. We do anything from solar panels to roof elements to windows, trees, bridges. We do bridges as well.
Of course.
So anything in the built environment we test. And I'm sure there's things that we haven't thought of that people want to test. So they'll bring it here. Every year, Florida International holds a competition for local high school students. This year, the challenge is to build a miniature skyscraper and to see whose building can last the longest against the wall of wind. It has to weigh 40 pounds. It's got to be a minimum of 32 inches tall. And it has to have a width of at least 8 inches. So we gave every school the base structure here, which is that gold color. And they build whatever fits within the parameters of the test.
In 1992, a Category 5 hurricane named Hurricane Andrew hit the Florida coast. The town of Homestead received the brunt of this storm, and it destroyed homes and buildings and cost the state billions of dollars in damage. And ever since this event, there's been a demand to lessen or mitigate the loss of life and property in case a hurricane like this ever happens again. And that is what this challenge is all about. Finding whose structure can best handle extreme wind.
3, 2, 1, start.
first building falls at a wind speed of 29 miles per hour. Now they'll test the second structure.
3, 2, 1, start.
43 miles per hour, and it's still standing.
Shaking a little bit.
Yes! 50 miles an hour.
It finally falls at 57 miles per hour.
So what was the inspiration behind this design?
Well, the inspiration behind this design, if you can see, our balconies have small dimples, just like a golf ball. And when we looked at a golf ball has very little wind drag because you wanted to go as far as possible. So if we implemented that design, we knew that the wind would be dispersed among the tower and wouldn't hit it completely dead on.
This Wall of Wind challenge is a great example of taking science out of the classroom and into the real world. So while mighty hurricanes will certainly continue to bombard coastlines around the world, research may help to lessen their devastating effects. Coming up, we'll follow a team of severe weather researchers as they track a potential tornado.
Just so you know, we have a target storm. It's at about 11 o'clock. Copy that.